Woodcroft Lodge in Bishopstoke Lane. We're not going to walk up Bishopstoke Lane, we're going to go by the carriage drive of Alderbury House like last time. I shall make 2 short stops on the way just to point out a few things. But before we start here, I think there's 1 or 2 new people here. So just...
Morning.
1991 by Mike Wright, and there are 3 rooms here: Dutch the Gloucester room, the Burt Stratton room, and the Patrick Moore room. Above on the roof there is the French cockerel associated with the Twinning Association. We're going to carry along Tees Farm Road to the Triangle. Upper Moors Road. They got Lower Moors Road, Upper Moors Road. It's named after Twyford Moors. Twyford Moors is the site where a lot of from the meadows of the River Itchen, a special place of scientific interest, and Southampton Waterworks collect a lot of their water from Twyford Moors. It's very pure, the water there. Moors Road used to be the main road into Eastleigh, and the buses used to go there to Southampton, to Winchester, and the Albrook Bridge. We've just passed Oakbank House with the mathematical red tiles. I think it is an outlier from Brambridge House. It's built in the same little style. The school here replaces the school opposite the church rooms. The design is by the same architect who designed Southampton Airport. Yeah. On the way down, we're going down Tees Farm, Lower Moors Road, Upper Moors Road. If you look to your right, you see the avenue to Brambridge House of lime trees. It dates from about the 16th century. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 of the lime trees in the recent storms, the recent years, branches have fallen off them. We cross over the road now here.
It used to come up through Moors Road, up Spring Lane, and carried forward, and then it sort of drove into the main road, reversed back, and then turned back into Spring Lane, and waited for about 5 minutes before coming back.
We're walking down the Moors Road here, and people are commenting how small the road is now. But this was
it was much wider.
Yeah, it's what I was saying. It was the number 41 bus at that time from here into Eastleigh. The house, little cottage opposite us, was called the Nurses Cottage for Colden Common. I don't know when she retired, but still known as the Nurses Cottage.
This used to be known as Nurses Cottage.
I think so. Midwife. I'm not sure about the exact. It'd be interesting to find out whether her remit was midwife, district nurse, or both, or everything to work in conjunction with the local GP. This little stream here comes from the roundabout by Main Road. They've got the village pond, church pond. They're not low now. We can compare what the environment is. We're crossing over the road now and going into Brambridge. There's no stop there. Be careful when you cross the road.
It's 2 now.
Yeah, no, only 2, I think 1 half. A few little hamlets like Brambridge, Highbridge, Fisher's Pond, Hensting Lane. The Dog and Crook, the pub in Brambridge here, I think parts of it date from the late 18th century, about 1790, I've been told. We're going up the carriage drive of Alderbury House, a large house, to Bishopstoke Lane. John Lowry, the owner, has kindly consented that we can walk up here looking out to Bishopstoke Lane. These here are still the old iron gates to the entrance of the carriage drive. Go along the carriage drive, you get a fine little house, landscape, tall trees, the sea trees in the garden, and you also get a different view across the river over to Brambridge as we go up the slope. We'll carry on up the slope to the top. By kind permission of Mr. and Mrs. Lowry, they've let us walk through the carriage drive, avoiding Bishopstoke Lane. But Alderbury Lodge, I think, dates from the late 18th century, had some additions in, and I think 19th century, lovely big house, landscape garden, and in the 1950s it was sold and divided up into two. I think part of the house was Woodcroft Lodge, and I think John's kindly come to meet us here, and we're just going to go in the Woodcroft Lodge now. So this is Cecily, who's going to give us a short few minutes talk about the house and a few of the other buildings around.
Sorry about this dog.
Yeah. I think it's a nice day. I think maybe half can go around the house and half can go around the garden.
Swap over. Oh, she's so excited. It's a bit overwhelming. Yes, welcome to Woodcroft Cottage. We're probably one of the oldest houses in Colden Common, or Brambridge. This is, as you're all aware of, this bit was probably the original settlement, and then Colden Common grew on with the works, with the brickworks, and so Hill's farmhouse across the way is probably the slightly older than this cottage. This cottage, you'll see when we go inside how it's been radically altered over the years, as indeed most houses are. Hill's farmhouse had been extended quite considerably, a lot of work done there. Brambridge Lodge, which this house used to be called Brambridge Lodge until it was added on to. But that house is altered because the original bit that you looked at facing this way was then added on in Victorian time, well actually slightly earlier than Victorian times, and became the big house, part of the whole estate around here. So, and then probably when that house was built, extension on that, which is the wing that looks down over the field, that was built, probably our walled garden belonged to that. It's difficult to find these things out exactly. I've been in the records office and looked up various things on the old tithe maps, and as you do, but that the walled garden was probably part of that because it was all one big estate, as you can imagine, in those days. The original landowners varied. I think Mrs. Fleming had some part of it at one time, the big Fleming estates that are around, Fleming Park in Eastleigh, and all the Flemings had a lot of land in this area.
Roundabout as well.
Yes. Yes, that's right, yes. A lot of land around. She had fingers in most pies that were going. But anyway, this bit is the oldest bit of the house. And the other side was added on in about, don't really know, probably in about 1920s, that sort of time, as far as we know. Anyway, when we go in, you'll see the listing. The house is listed, was re-listed when they went round again in 1984. And we had notification that they'd revised the general listings, and this one was still on the listing register, so they just reinforced that it was of historic interest, really, rather than anything really wonderful looking like probably in Hill's farmhouse, which has got a lot of nice original features. This was really quite a small cottage, and was probably for a tenant farmer or someone like that. It was probably built for, because it was probably built in about 1790 as far as we can tell. The windows are original, these obviously the iron ones, built, made with very pure iron in those days. They're not like the old crystal ones, which tend to rust out completely. They do rust, of course, because you know that's the nature of the thing. But those were original. What else? Is
Is that the fire?
Oh, that's the fireplace. How relevant that really is.
Oh, get the tail.
You can see how there are two cottages from our two little gates here. This is a bone of contention with me because you can see how the road has risen up from the resurfacing and everything, and which is very annoying. And when we first came here in '79, we had quite a wide verge outside because I could mow it with a mower, you know, up and down. But now, you know, the road has been gradually increased, eroded and bodged up by the county. Originally, the lane was just a track to the farms. It was never really adopted, and it was just tarmacked over at some stage so that people then used it as a road. But since the water mains work in the main road, we have had a constant flow of traffic. Huge great Arctic lorries that can't get round the bend. What part of unsuitable for heavy vehicles they don't understand, I really don't know. You know, I've shouted at people and been told, you know, like you do. But you can see the different dates really. This one was the original entrance to the cottage, and it's beautifully built, you know, and with nice bricks in the bottom there are all laid in herringbone style. Whereas the other one, which they built when they did the extension, is just a bit jerry built and a bit rough and ready, and is not really as nice as that one. But you know, it's all part of the way the development goes on over the time.
You keep that, but you can't use it now, really.
The suicide gate, that is. Grid by over it. So we lifted that up, and in it, down there, we have a 23-foot well with the water level is about this much below. Is it?
Still.
The floor.
I say, I bet it's higher than that now.
Yes. Trouble with it, not at all, no, which is very odd, really, because anyway, so we just we lowered a mug down on a string and came up with the water, and crystal clear, beautiful water.
Do you have a spring then in the garden? Where does it come from?
Well, it's groundwater.
Oh, right.
So that works in, we're on the top of the hill here, and apparently, according to Peter Phillips at the farm, he said there's another well on the other side of the house, but we've never found it. But we walk along a bit. Yes, that's right. So anyway, that's the well there, but it pumps. The pump to it is out in the garden, so you'll see that as you go around. So that's nice. Now. The original people, when it was converted from the original one cottage into the two cottages, they added that bit on, and that became a bathroom of all things for this cottage, because obviously years ago they didn't have. But when they converted into that, there was a bathroom there. So, but you can virtually see everything that's been altered, and that's sort of permissible with listing and things like that. They don't expect people to, not that we've done it, but they don't expect people to live like they did in 1790. So anyway, this is the sitting room. Now, if we go into the other side of the house, to show you how it changes. The rest of it round, or the other piece. This was absorbed, so although this is the stairs for the old house, there was another staircase put in the kitchen, so a new building there. So we've got loads of fireplaces, as you've probably noticed. Some of them still work, except for that one. We had that little stove, was given to us by a friend because we didn't have one then. And we reckon it's pretty contemporary with the, because you remember in '87 when we had the power cuts and that, with the awful gale, and we were off for about 5 days here. And electricity, just here. And I actually did. We let it find up, took for hours and hours. But you could put a casserole in, which we did in the little oven, and you could boil water, of course. And I put a flat iron. I had heated it up to do a little quick ironing shirt, you know, but no, it works. And we like it.
Was this original?
No, that wasn't original. That was good enough. But it just seems to go.
Yes, very much, yes.
Yes. Here we've got little maps. That's 1809, which shows the house here, Woodcroft Cottage. This is next door with the old house, the old Brambridge House. And that's the bit that we
Probably bought the garden and the house was unadded.
Wow, look at that. How old was the pumpkin?
Spring Lane and Main Road, where the bungalow used to be on the
Who
left-hand
knows?
side.
The well was in the
One of those-
living room.
That's right,
Yes,
yeah.
you like to
Yeah, just
point
in
it
front of
out.
the television, which is
amazing.
convenient. And you can see that there's another feed going to the kitchen, so it was rather posh that they actually had a pump in the kitchen.
Goodness. Yeah. That was quite a find, wasn't it?
Yeah, yes it was. Yeah.
I wonder how many wells you've got
It's
to
an
like it.
original feed,
Absolutely.
but of course we've renewed all the woodwork, but maintained all the original iron that went with it.
I'm gradually revolutionising my garden. Oh, are you? Yes, I'm taking everything that's got prickles on it. Oh, yes.
A cold stove got the other side on the back wall there. So heated greenhouse.
Yes. Very good. So what's some trees?
It's a grape vine and
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
not very attractive grapes.